Just the district.
Just the district office. Now, come on. No, so it's just what we're using in our class. So I will show it to them.
In what class?
Our leadership training class.
Okay.
So it's probably like Debbie and Missy were my last people who looked at my stuff. So it won't be
fine.
that, okay?
Okay.
I promise.
Okay.
All right.
Did I already agree to this ahead of time?
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you agreed to everything. All right.
Okay.
So the other day I came in and you were doing your math lesson.
Uh-huh.
So tell me, what was your objective of that lesson?
The objective of that lesson was to go over the previous day's lesson because there was a bunch of kids in the class who just had no idea about, they were getting supplementary, complementary, adjacent, vertical, all those all mixed up, or they just had no clue. And we had gone over it the day before, and I thought it was review because it's 7th grade skill.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they missed it in 7th grade or what. Jeff and I decided that they changed the standard. It used to be a 8th grade standard, but now it's it was a 7th grade standard, but now it's an 8th grade. I can't remember how it is, but when they changed the standard, he thinks they missed it. Because 7th graders could do that same worksheet way better than 8th graders could, even the smartest, even the top of the class. So anyway, that was my whole thing, was just try to go over it again and have some of them come up and watch a video because we'd already done it on the board. Anyway.
So do you think that did the video enhance their ability to understand?
It just gave them a different, because we didn't watch a video about it initially. We just did it on the board, and I think we even did it, I had them go to the board and do some. So I'd done it at the board, had instructed about it, and I actually thought there was something that was going to be already just review. Then when I found out that it wasn't even a review, for some of them, then I went to a different way to try to let them learn it from we did Khan Academy too. After that, was I doing Khan Academy when you came in?
You were doing CK-12 or...
Okay, so then we did Khan Academy too, and they watched a small one on Khan Academy too, so. Anyway.
So in the lesson, what did you find was particularly satisfying?
Oh, brother. I know that some of them that didn't get it, got it. And after class, a couple of them came up and said, I get it now. I didn't get this part. I didn't get this part, and I can't remember what part it was, but now I get it. You do it this way, and it was for the supplementary, and they got it. And I'm going, oh good. Hope I see that on your paper now. But anyway, that's.
So you saw some light bulbs. They were
some light bulbs. Yes, in there, and some of them that were. I know that I had a group of kids that weren't so involved in the lesson, but I also knew that they weren't having a problem with that skill on the paper. So I was trying to hit the ones that weren't getting it. So
you kind of had an idea then who in the room really needed to focus.
Right. Because we'd already done a paper the day before. I already knew there's about half and half. The half of them got it by the first day, but the other half did not know nothing, didn't have it. So that's why we went over.
Okay. So what are some things that may have concerned you about the lesson after you reflected on the lesson and the kids were working on their worksheets? Was there anything that concerned you about that lesson?
Not so much about the lesson. More about some of the students that weren't getting it still during the video, because I have some kids that it's just hard for them to, I think that they might be a little bit reluctant to speak up, or they don't want people to know, you know, and I know that they're not getting it, but I'm going over it again, but I know that I have to hit them again when they're working on the worksheet, and I realize they don't have it, they weren't gonna get it from the video either, but, so I wish there was a better way to get to those kids, or that there was something more that I could do for them. But yet I know that they're closer, but they just don't have it completely yet.
So hitting those kids that are a little bit more introverted about their confidence,
Yes.
maybe trying to figure out how do you approach them.
Yeah, because in that particular class, you have 7th graders in with 8th graders that are like the top of the class.
Right.
So that's a little bit, when you're not getting it, you certainly don't want them to get it either, or them, them to even know. So while I think they're getting closer to the concept, they just don't have it as well as the other ones do. I don't know that they could do it independently on their own, but.
So when I was reflecting about the students and their responses, so there was one part of the lesson where you were talking about supplementary angles, and they had, one of the angles was like 61 degrees, and the question was, what is the other angle? What's the measurement on the other angle if it's a supplementary angle? And a few of the kids really got it,
right.
that you would subtract it from 180.
Right.
There were a couple of kids who said, no, you need to, because there were 2 angles, or complementary angles, right? No, you need to add those together and then subtract it.
Oh, okay.
And so I was hearing there was a couple of different camps on how to solve it.
Right.
What I saw you do was you went up and just solved it, showed them how to do it.
Right. We
So-
didn't go into what the other one was. Right.
Yeah.
And we could have.
Yeah.
Would have been a good opportunity.
That's what I was thinking, is what might have been some ways that you could have let them evaluate
Right.
that process.
Right. Yep. Could have.
So what are some other student responses that maybe stood out for you during that lesson?
I guess the most that stood out for me was that they still weren't getting it. and being the other class, the 7th grade class that has 6th graders in it, got it. I almost thought that they were messing with me, that they, to an extent, because I think, my gosh, you guys are working on linear equations and Pythagorean theorem, and you're working on all these other things, and you don't want these two added together, or 180 degrees. I mean, there were some of them that wanted to add the points on the 180 degree on the line to make it be add them to make it be the supplementary or the complementary, and so I think that's the biggest, was that there were still questions, and there were still didn't know. And we had spent so much time on it. So it makes me question whether I was getting there. But, and then, like I say, there's, but the same ones that weren't getting that very well are the ones that is the most challenging for them. All of the lessons they're the lower end of the ability level. And they're the ones that take as much work. And again, we have some really, really high ones in there too, so.
It is a very diverse group.
It is.
When you look at that.
It is.
And
in beings that, I teach special education.
Right.
And there's some that I'm going, really, because they have so many, they're so far behind some of the intellect of the others, but it's not completely true, because we have some that are so high, so much above the intellect of their peers, so, I don't know, anyway.
So, another thing that I noticed was that you had a group of students who raised their hand the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I noticed that you were kind of calling on those who raised their hand, and then you would do kind of a wait. I'll wait until I see more hands up,
Right,
kind of thing.
right.
So, given that you had some students that were
Always
more
have
than
their hand
willing to
up.
participate, how would you assess the level of participation of the rest of the students?
Well, I think I expected that there would be many more kids raising their hand, because like I say, wasn't our first lesson on this.
Right.
I expected more hands, and so when I called on the first groups, I thought surely the rest of them are going to chime in because they know this stuff. They should know it. And when they didn't, it's like, okay, I want everybody to start paying attention, so raise your hand and we're gonna wait and get more people. So you asked me what.
So how do you think the other kids who are not raising their hand, what's their level of participation or their engagement, I guess, if they're not raising their hand?
If they're not raising their hand, my theory is they still weren't getting it. They just weren't getting it. And there's probably a few of them that weren't paying attention, so have no idea what was even being asked. But for the most part, usually when they really watch the videos in here. I mean, I try to do the proximity pretty good, and they don't talk when we're watching the videos, so that I know that they're watching it. So I guess it's like, why aren't they getting it? but anyways, I just don't think that they're still. I just think that it's still confusing for them, and it's still not getting it. But also, Jared, I think that I did. Being I thought this was review, I didn't go step by step so much into it. So I had to kind of backtrack, because we kind of hit at all the elements one day, and we all practiced it a little bit. And then we gave them the worksheet thinking it's more review. And then having to go all the way back because it wasn't review for a whole bunch of them. But then again, it was easy for others. So anyway, it was almost a 50-50 about it. So it was just a difficult. It was a difficult subject for them, and it still is. That worksheet did not get completed, still. But I might teach it again later, and then, because I've done this before, teach it again later, and I just held on to their little packets, and teach it again later and go over it again later, and then have them work through that same packet again and make corrections and stuff. I've done that before, and actually that's gone pretty good. But
so there was one thing that I really noticed was that the kids in their table groups were very comfortable with each other, and even when they went to independent work, they were working. They were a little chatty, but they were working, and it seemed like that. So one of the strategies that I might suggest is that if you give them, and I've seen you do this before in some of your other lessons, where you give that table group, here's your problem, talk amongst each other, how are you going to solve this? Then there's a little bit more responsibility put on every person in that group to participate. So it's not just one group or one table answering out there, it's happening at each table group. So, because like I noticed, like Cheyenne, up here at the top, she would share, but when they were working independently, I think the other kids knew as much, but she was the one who was more willing to.
Well, I hope that they knew as much.
Well, I think so.
And I think that they totally learned from that other person. You know, they're getting a whole bunch from them, justifying or just clarifying what they think. So
I think just. The thing that I would like to see more is that given some small group participation and then sharing out, so then you're not having to wait for somebody to raise their hand. And then the kids know that they're going to have to participate in some way.
It's more than what